Okay, guys, we are going to get started now. I was not recording right at the beginning. Just recapping very quickly where we're at in our series of modules. We're on module number 2 in this 12 module series that we're working our way through. And if you guys kind of look at how these modules are progressing, it is the sales cycle. So it is a matter of how, you really work through from starting to engage and find prospects, the marketing aspect of your business, into what does it look like to make those outbound phone dials, emails, texts, and then finally working into, actually working and engaging with the consumer. I constantly tell new agents that, there are 3 things that we do in our business that drive revenue. We market our businesses, we schedule appointments, and we run appointments. Obviously, after we run appointments, there is back end work and follow up that needs to be done. And we'll certainly spend some time on that as well. But this is really the focus of what we're going to be doing over the next quarter here. Steve has agreed to take over for the majority of today's discussion. And so he's going to be kind of focusing on really the farming in the business, which I would say this is the time of year where we have to pivot back to the farming in the business. People are not readily actively lining up to talk to you this time of year, for most of you. I will say many of us are busier than we want to be maybe this time of year, but it's because we built out the systems and processes and infrastructure, and we've planted the seeds in previous seasons so that there are people who want to talk to us this time of year. So, Steve, I'm going to turn things over to you for the rest of today's session. I appreciate you helping guide us as always, and you are welcome to share and take over from here. So, thanks for being here.
No problem. All right. All right, can you see my screen okay? Thumbs up. All right. So, one of the things that Silas and I decided a few years ago is we kind of break this business up into phases. And so the first phase is by far the most important, and that's actually looking for prospects. This is also the easiest thing to do. You may not like it, but of all the skills between marketing, dialing the phone, running appointments, marketing is the easiest skill to acquire, but it is a skill you have to acquire. And so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on looking for prospects through internet leads, direct marketing activities, and prospecting potential clients. Now, a lot of people look at this and say, wait a minute, Steve, direct marketing and prospecting. Marketing is getting your information to people. Prospecting is engaging with people. Okay, there's a difference. And so we're going to break it out because there's a lot of people that'll do a lot of marketing. Well, that's probably going to take a lot longer than if you're willing to engage with prospects right away. But the nice thing about this is there's no right or wrong way to do this. So we're going to kind of show you some things that where you can do both, and it's all based on your own mentality. So first thing we're going to talk about is internet leads. Internet leads are still an important part of what we do. Don't know how long they're going to be an important part of what we do because, again, I just saw Health Market sent out something yesterday about marketing guidelines and stuff, and consent is becoming a big deal in our world now. Whether we like it or not, I think it's going to get harder and harder for these companies to generate leads. But the good news to that is I think the companies that commit to it are going to get better at it, and they're going to be a little bit more quality. There might not be as much quantity, but again, I think there was a wild west there for a few years where these companies were just doing a bunch of stuff that may or may not be kosher, but I think they're weeding a lot of the bad companies out. And I've just noticed with Health Markets kind of firing internet vendors that the lead quality is a little better. Okay. Again, these are never going to be things that you're going to be able to live your whole life on, unless you're willing to spend a couple $100 a week on it. But I think one of the biggest things about internet leads is understanding what they are and having the right mindset. So I always like to go over this with people. And so internet leads, basically, they're an inexpensive way to build your database. Because again, Silas talked about last week when he was going through the CRM, he has like, what'd you say, Silas, 40-something thousand and I have 30 something thousand.
I think mine was 37. I don't want to overstate it, but 37.
Okay, 37, and I was right around 30. And that's just from years of getting internet leads, putting leads in our systems. But guys, the beautiful thing about this being an inexpensive way to build your database is that we can actually use health market size and scope to buy these leads at a drastically reduced price. Because again, there's a lot of people out in the open market that have to buy their own leads. And we can sit here and talk about how crappy the leads are. Well, we're only spending $4 or $5 for the crappy leads. They're spending 25 to 30. So again, you always got to look at it from a positive spin, and health markets can use the size and scope of the business to get us these leads at a drastically reduced cost. And so one of the things that we want to do is we want to build a database that we can market to on a continual basis, because just because someone doesn't want to buy today doesn't mean they won't buy tomorrow. Okay, so that's the first thing is we're using health market size and scope to build our database in an inexpensive way. The other neat thing about internet leads is they're available daily. Now, some of you have heard me say this before, but it's a blessing and a curse that they're available daily, because Silas will remember, and when I started in this business, we used to have Monday morning meetings where we would get 5 to 10 the crappy leads back then were telemarketed leads. And then every once in a while, you got a couple direct mails were like gold. But we got about 5 to 10 leads a week. And then we got a bunch of what we called B leads, which were old recycled leads. But the main thing about it, guys, is that's all the leads you were going to get that week. Whatever you got on Monday morning, you worked them that week, you turned them back in the next week, and you started the process over. And so when the internet became more prominent as a lead generation tool, the blessing is we can get leads daily now. But that's also a curse, because we can get leads daily now. I think most reps now lose the ability to learn how to market their own business. And so one of the things that we have been taught this whole time is a third of your business should come from leads, a third of your business should come from self-generation, and a third should come from referrals. That's kind of been the talking point in our industry for 30 years. Well, if you're not generating your own, you're missing out on a third of the leads. And I think a lot of the problem is people sit around and they just wait for these leads to come in, and they don't actually have intentional time where they go out in the field and try to drum up their own. Okay. Now, the other thing about internet leads, they're just pieces of information. They are neither good nor bad. Just because somebody doesn't want to do business with you doesn't make it a bad lead, because I always use the story of, I sold a guy a Medicare plan a couple years ago that I first got his lead 7 years ago. Okay. Turned out to be a pretty good lead. I've got his wife since then. But again, if you go into this whole process of working internet leads with this idea of good versus bad, it's going to affect your attitude. And if you guys remember the success triangle from new rep training, if you have a poor attitude about something, you're going to have a hard time acting on it. Again, they're just pieces of information. Some people are looking, some people are not. Let's get good or bad out of our vocabulary. They're just someone to call. They may be looking, they may be not. Now, and that goes down to the second point, is some of them are looking for help and some are not. Again, I previously mentioned some of these lead vendors have gotten a little shady over the last few years, and they would do things like, create sites where it looks like you're going to get a quote because you're thinking about retiring, and next thing you know, your phone blows up. Some things they did was hey, if you fill out this survey, you can win an iPad. Well, what ends up happening is all of a sudden you're getting calls from mortgage companies, insurance companies, auto companies, because and again, I don't notice this as much anymore, but they also recycle leads. Why? Because I just called someone a few months ago where that person's been dead for 6 months. So I know they didn't go on the internet recently. But guys, if you just understand that these lead companies have to make money, and where it started to go off track was in 2014 when the government forced everybody to buy insurance in a very condensed period of time. Before that, internet leads actually had high quality because people could just, when they could buy year round. And so I think the companies had to kind of skew things a little bit because they still need money in February and March as well. And I think that's what happened. So again, my whole attitude about internet leads is you got to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince, but there's a lot of princes in there, especially if you're willing to invest in them. Okay. Talk to Tyler Deckert. Most of his business still comes off internet leads. He just buys 70 to 80 a week. And if you can't afford that, well, then you're going to have to go out and generate your own. Now, the other thing we need to understand about internet leads is in most cases, they're getting bombarded by calls from agents all over the country. Don't take it personally. Okay. You know, I look at it this way. When you buy exclusive internet leads, that means it probably goes to 5 to 10. When you buy shared internet leads, it probably goes to 15 to 20. I mean, there are no exclusive leads anymore, but they're just charging you extra money so you think it's exclusive. Okay. So again, that's another one of the kind of shady things that I think some of these companies do is we just need to understand that these leads are going out to multiple people across the country. They're going out to call centers. And these people are getting bombarded. So if they get mad at you at the phone, don't worry about it. Don't take it personal. And then last but not least, the quality can be greatly influenced by how we disposition them in the CRM. This has become Silas used to beat this drum all the time. And I'm finally glad that the company started to do something about it, because it's like, well, what's the point of dispositioning these leads and talking about how crappy they are when the company's not doing anything about it? And I don't know what happened, and maybe Silas can throw a little light onto this, but about a year ago, they started getting rid of vendors. So someone made a decision that if you're going to give us crappy leads, we're canning you. So, and that's why I'm saying, I mean, yeah, I still call people, and some people are not looking. Some people are like, yeah, I was looking, but I got that taken care of. But they're still getting bombarded. So again, we just need to deal with it. But again, if you're going to use internet leads, which I believe as a new person, this has got to be part of your strategy initially, you can get to the point like me. Now, there's a lot of people on our team. They don't take any internet leads at all. There's nothing wrong with that. They're all referrals. They do other things. I still get about 5 to 7 leads every single day. And the main reason I do it is because I want to experience what you guys are experiencing, because Silas has tasked me with working with newer people. And if I don't know what the hell you're going through, how can I help you? But also by knowing what you're going through, I can kind of detect the bullcrap factor too, that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. But internet leads, they're just part of my strategy. They're not my main strategy. They're just one thing I do. I try to have at least one phone session every single day and I'm always running about 25 to 30 leads through the system. We'll talk about my process a little bit later, but I like to do this because number one, there's still deals in there. Number two, I like to see what you guys are experiencing too. And a lot of our upper tier people, this is no fault. They just don't know how internet leads work anymore because they haven't called them in a long time. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But I look at a Tyler Deckert. He's a higher tier 4 than I am, and he still buys a lot of leads. So you can write business with leads. So Silas, do you want to jump in on anything that I've covered here before I move on?
I would just agree with everything that you're saying here. I think it's a way to build your database. And I would tell any agent, if you're not running 6 to 8 client meetings a week on other forms of leads coming into your system, you should turn internet leads on. Most of you have the money in your accounts to do so. I will tell you, your leadership is willing to help support you in that and the funding of this. If you're working leads and running out of money, if you're doing the work, we're willing, to help fund this until the pump is kind of primed for you. And I think too, the big thing about internet leads, I mean, I worked them for many, many, many years. They did a really great job of building my database. There are deals in there. But I don't think you can get emotional about them, right? You have to recognize them for what they are. And I think Steve's done a great job of doing that. And you just got to have a process that you push them through. I go back to our process for working a lead, which we will be kind of rehashing here in the coming weeks. But I just think if you put a process together, you're texting, emailing, dialing them, and you work them over a 7 to 14 day time frame, and then you close them out as no sale and you move on. If you have a process you're pushing them through, it can take the emotion out of it, so that you're not frustrated. So that's all I've got on this particular topic, Cav.
All right. So let's talk about the psychological impact of internet leads that I've noticed since 2014, because that's when I really saw things kind of go south with these leads. And what I've noticed is that most reps look at these leads as someone who needs help. The reality is most of the people are not looking for help. Okay, that's just the reality of it. These companies are shooting these names out, and most of them are not looking. Now, because some of these people are getting bombarded by calls, their response to us is not very pleasant, or they're just not going to answer the phone. I hear reps complain all the time, man, I dialed the phone 100 times. I didn't talk to anybody. Well, who's going to answer a phone that they don't recognize? I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about phones in the next couple of weeks. But the bottom line is they're probably not going to answer the phone if they don't know you. Okay. Now, here's the problem. Unfortunately, most reps take this attack personal, or they get frustrated by all the voicemails, and it starts to affect them mentally. The reason is when we have expectations of one thing and the opposite happens, negative emotions take over. So if I'm a new rep and I get 10 internet leads and 4 of them are disconnected numbers, 2 of them tell me to fly a kite and the rest no one answered, am I going to want to buy another 10 if I'm letting this affect me emotionally? I like what Silas said. We can't let this become emotional. And that's the problem, because when we repeatedly have these negative emotions, it creates what's called call reluctance. And when call reluctance occurs, we stop doing the activity that's causing the negative emotions. We quit buying leads, we dial the phone less and less, and ultimately the business starts to suffer. So here's how I've overcome all this, because some of you know my story, and I'm the first to admit I've struggled with call reluctance my whole career. Okay. So I've just learned to develop things to help me overcome that. And so here's how I've overcome my call reluctance about internet leads. First of all, I look at working internet leads as a dialing activity to help me get my 500 to 700 points for the week. So for me, working internet leads, the number one thing I'm doing is I'm getting points on the PTS. That's my motivation. Because if you really think about it, that's the only thing I can control. I can only control how many times I dial the phone. I can't control if someone's going to answer. I can't control if they're going to yell at me. I can't control anything other than dialing the phone. So when I think about working internet leads, it's all about points. I also go into the call assuming they don't need my help. I just understand the business right now. And so I don't call these people thinking they're going to need my help. I'm assuming they don't need my help. I also anticipate that most of my dials are going to go to their voicemail. So I just leave a voice. I take advantage of that. It's just another way to market to these people. And when I talk to someone, I'm not trying to set an appointment initially. I'm qualifying the lead to see if it's a mistake. Because again, if most of these people are not looking, the very first thing I got to do is I got to verify the need. And if they don't have a need, it doesn't make it a bad lead. It's just they don't have a need. Okay, move on to the next one. But if they confirm they are looking, now I need to qualify them to see if they want to go through my process. Because my process is, if we've never met before, our first appointment is going to be done face-to-face. Now that face-to-face can be in my office, it can be in your home, or it can be virtually. But I only want to work with people who want to do this face-to-face initially, because I'm not trying to sell a product. I'm trying to start a relationship that's going to last for a long time. How many of you can have a long-lasting relationship when you don't even know what the other person looks like. It's kind of weird. It happens, but it's kind of weird, okay? And so that's what I'm looking to do is, just because they have a need doesn't mean they're going to want to work with me, because some people just, hey, send me a quote. Now, this approach has freed me from call reluctance because I'm either going to get the answer I was expecting, they don't need my help, or they will confirm they need help and I can qualify them to see if they want to go through my process. Guys, ever since I started taking this approach, I don't have call reluctance anymore. Calling is just something I do. It takes me about an hour, hour and a half a day to go through my 25 to 30 leads as I work through the process, and then I move on to something else, okay? Now, I realize why I can only do this for an hour, hour and a half, because some of you know recently I just got diagnosed with adult ADHD. I have a hard time staying on task for a long time, so I got to move on to other things. So I'm good for about an hour, hour and a half, and then it's time to move on to something else. Now, another thing that has shaped my process, and some of you have seen this before, is, again, I have totally kind of transformed over to where texting is my primary mode of communication. Again, just to run through this real quick, 9 out of 10 people read their text they receive within the first 3 minutes. Open rate for a text is 98%, or emails is only 20. The response rate for a text is 45, or email it's only 6. On average, it takes people 90 seconds to respond to a text message. It takes 90 minutes for an email. And text message response rates are almost 300% higher than phone calls. The other thing is 9 out of 10 consumers want to do business. They want to communicate via text, and they want to work with business who text. So I'm just telling you guys, if you're not starting to slowly transition over to making texting a big part of what you do, you're going to fall behind, because this is the way that people want to communicate. And so when I think about that, so I'm going to talk about working leads. And again, a lot of you know I'm a big Sandler guy. And I actually have a book here called Prospecting the Sandler Way. And I've pulled some of this stuff out of there. A lot of you are going to like, Steve, that's what you've been talking about a whole lot. Yeah, but this is where I got it from, okay? Because Sandler's all about, when you interact with people, quit sounding like a salesperson. Interact with people like you're just having a conversation with them, okay? And so this is how I choose to work internet leads. This is not company endorsed, Jessup team endorsed. Everybody has their own way. I'm just showing you how I do it, because the thing I want you to get out of this is not how I do it. It's that I have a process that I follow every single time, because I think Silas will get on board with that, okay? So working leads the Sandler way, my first attempt. When I receive a new lead, I send the first text using the Agent Connect CRM as soon as I can. So I was waiting for Silas to get on here. I had 6 leads come in this morning. I'm shooting text, okay? Now, what my text say is, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm a local insurance agent. This number was sent to me recently. Is this a mistake, or do you need help with health, life, Medicare, dental? And then I have my website. Guys, I don't give them a whole book on who I am. If they want to find out who I am, they can go click on my link to my website and see who I am. I just want to know if this is a mistake or not. Now, the reason I send a text first is I get a lot of people who respond back, this is a mistake. Guess what? Do I have to call those people now? I can just get them out of the system. But the other thing that happens is some people respond back and say, yes, I'm actually looking. What just became my priority call number 1? Okay, so a lot of people call first, then text. I text first, then I call. And so I'll text right away. Then when I start a phone session, I'll send out a first email. Again, the subject is, I'm a local agent. Do you need help with insurance? I'm a local insurance agent. I recently received a quote request with your information on it. Most of these inquiries are mistakes, and I'm assuming yours is no different. However, if you are actually looking for help for some sort of insurance, please reply to this email or contact me through my website. Guys, I have people who respond back to that and they say, I really like your approach. Thank you for asking if I'm even looking. Guys, it's dealing with people with respect, okay? And then I'll call the new leads. And if no one answers, I'll leave a message. Hi, my name's Steve Cavajol. I'm a local insurance agent with Health Markets. I'm sorry to bother you, but this number was sent to me recently. Sometimes I get these by mistake. So if you're looking for quotes on health, life, dental, or medical coverage, please contact me through my website or text me. I never ask them to call me back. Going to my website and texting me are non-threatening. Calling me back is threatening to someone when you don't know them. So again, these are just psychological things that I've learned throughout the years. And I'm a psychology major, so these Jedi mind tricks are kind of fun in my opinion. But people will respond in a positive way when you don't treat them like a salesperson usually treats them, because Sandler's all about pattern interrupts. Don't do what most salespeople are doing. Do something different. Well, what I'm doing, I'm sorry to bother you. Well, we should never tell people we're sorry to bother them. We're bothering them, so let's apologize for it, because we don't know if they're looking or not. Is this a mistake? Do you need help with health, life, dental? I get people who don't need health insurance, but they respond back saying, I am actually looking for dental, or I am actually looking for life. So these are ways that you can do that. Now, my second attempt is I will call. I only leave one message. It's the first time, but I will call again. If no one answers, I just hang up, move to the next one, and then I'll send out another text. Now, this one actually says, I'm following up on this online quote request. If this is not a mistake and you're looking for some quotes, please click the links below. Now, I always used to want people to call me, but with all the new technology we now have, we all have these personal URLs. So for health insurance quotes, I've created some domain names, slchealthquotes.com. That takes them to Health Sherpa. For life quotes, it takes them to Ethos. For the Medicare coverage, it takes them to ConnectSure. And then it's got my schedule if they want to talk to me. So I'm just like, look, some people don't want to deal with me. Why not go ahead? And I've made a couple sales doing this where I don't even know who these people are. I just get notified they bought something. Okay, I sold an Ethos life insurance policy to someone. I don't know who they are. Now, once I buy them, I can call them and talk to them. But that's what I do on the second attempt. The third attempt, I'll call again. And then this is my third one. I'm sorry I keep bothering you. Do you need help with some sort of insurance, or should I close your file? And then my website. And then my fourth attempt, I'll call them a fourth time. I'll send a final text. This is something Silas and I created a while ago. I really like it. Since I haven't heard from you, I'm assuming this quote was a mistake, or you're getting bombarded by calls and text and you're extremely frustrated. This is my last attempt, and I'm going to close your file if I haven't heard from you next day or so. However, if you still need help, click one of the links below. Guys, there are a lot of people that are looking, but because they get bombarded by calls, they just get frustrated and give up. I've had people respond back to this saying, you aren't a kid and my phone blew up. I'm just relating to these people. I know what you're going through. And then I'll send the final email, which is pretty much the same thing. So that's basically how I work internet leads. I'm not saying it's a right or a wrong way, but I literally will work a lead. I'll call them 4 times. I'll send them 4 texts. I'll send them 2 emails. I'll leave 1 voicemail. If they don't respond to that over a 4 to 5 to 6 day period, they're probably not interested. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to close them out. And now the CRM is going to start marketing to these people. Okay. So any questions on working leads?
Gab, I'll just mention here that, we try to give you some templates that you can use when it comes to a process for working a lead, but it's up to you to take ownership of whatever your own process is. And if you want to tweak that process, you want to add 1 more text or 1 less voicemail, or it's okay. But I just think you need to have a process that you've strategized and built out and makes sense to you so that you can own it and you can leverage it every single time. So don't feel like, we're trying to spoon feed you some things here, but you don't have to use our exact process either. You can build it out like you want. Maybe you only want to try to reach people 4 times and move on. Okay, that's up to you. See if it works, right? I can't say there's a magic bullet, but I do know that consistency over time works. I also know if you read any sales, literature, documentations, trying to reach somebody 1 or 2 times is not where the sales are made. There is something to persistency over a bit of time and keeping your information in front of them. And then, once you've gotten through your process, I think it's important to remember that most people are going to respond to you downstream based on a trigger event that they have, right? So we're truly trying to keep our information in front of people until they experience that trigger event, which initiates their qualifying event that then opens up their special enrollment period. And so that's kind of the thought process and mentality around that. So I just wanted to share some of those insights too.
Yeah,
Question.
the key to this is process. That's it. That's what you guys need to get out of working in leads. You've got to have a process that you just do over and over and over again.
So question in the chat, if somebody enrolls in an ACA plan through your link here, you've not had a conversation with them, are you going back and getting a consent form from them?
I think if they go through the link, that there's a
You
consent
don't need a
form.
consent form?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea to have one on file, but no. Who asked that?
Maggie March.
Okay, yeah. No, if they're self-enrolling with no direction from you and you're not doing the application form, you don't need an ACA consent form. Now, I would probably document that in my notes in my CRM just to make sure if there's ever a question about it, that I've got that, that accurate information in my system, but no, you don't need it for that.
And it's an opportunity to go back to them and say, hey, thank you so much. Do you have questions about the policy you wrote? Let's make sure I have your consent to help you in the future.
And obviously, if they're just buying health insurance, they've got gaps and holes that they didn't even know. So, I think the logical follow-up is, okay, you've got your base health insurance. Let's talk about the gaps and holes and maybe some complementary products that might make sense.
Yep. So good question. All right. So let's talk about direct marketing. Now, direct marketing are just activities you can do to advertise your business. You're not really engaging with anybody. You're just getting stuff out there. Now, there's 3 types of marketing activities. Direct activities are activities where you're getting your information directly to prospects. You're doing something. Again, examples are texting, emails, voicemails, direct mails, walk-in drops, paper box stuff, social media messaging. That's not posting a thing on Facebook. It's actually shooting a message. There's also what's called interruption marketing. These are activities where you're interrupting a prospect to see if there's a trigger event. This is what we would call prospecting. Some of these would be. So direct activities is marketing. Interruption marketing is actually prospecting. Calling internet leads, cold calls, calling referred names, walk and drop follow-ups, calling recycled leads, 3-foot rule, drive-by contact. Silas came up with that years ago where you're sitting at a stoplight, you see Joe's Construction on a truck, you kind of jot the number down and you reach out to them, or calls to business cards. We're going to talk about some no-pressure prospecting in a little bit. And then there's passive marketing where you're not really getting your information to people. It's more a matter of chance. Giving your clients business cards to hand out. Pull tabs, take ones, newspaper ads, BMI groups, trade shows, billboards, car wraps, placemats, social media posts, and again, even wearing the Health Markets logo, that's passive marketing. I've had people, what's Health Markets? Well, here's what we do. Hey, do you have a card? Okay. So what we're going to kind of focus on mostly right now is the direct activities, but guys, I truly believe you got to do all 3. Okay. We do all 3 in some sort. And I think it's good to have a nice little kind of a holistic approach where most of my time is spent on direct activities, but I do some interruption marketing and I do some passive marketing. Okay. So Silas hit on us a second ago. You need to understand, and when it comes to marketing, trigger events. Trigger events is something that creates a need, which it requires a prospect to buy. If there is no trigger event, there's no type of marketing that'll get a prospect to act. People say, well, what's the best marketing piece? Any marketing piece is good if they're looking at that particular time. A business card is good if you have some with a trigger event. But since we don't know when people have a trigger event, our job is to constantly market our business so they'll come to us when a trigger event occurs. I'll think of something as little as walking and dropping. People say, how often do you walk and drop an area? Every 60 to 90 days. Why? Because I don't know when the trigger event's coming. But if they constantly see me over and over and over again, when a trigger event comes, they may realize this Cavajola dude keeps dropping stuff in my paper box, or he keeps walking into my business every 90 days. Okay. Now, the other thing is, since we are fortunate enough to have open enrollments, we should be marketing our business year round, specifically for the trigger events. So again, my mentality now is I really start cranking up the marketing again in February. I used to do it early in January, but now that the open enrollments go mid-January, last week, I really started cranking up some marketing. This week, I'm already at 1,200 points and it's Tuesday. Okay. I'm starting to really crank this thing up again. But my attitude is I'm always marketing to the next open enrollment, because by doing that, I'm going to stumble across people who have an immediate need right now because they just lost their job. They just had a kid. They changed jobs, whatever. Okay. But I'm always marketing to open enrollments with the idea that if I just keep marketing starting February 1st till the end of September, I'm going to find people who need me now. I think the other thing we have to do is we have to leverage the power of the internet. The internet is the most powerful form of leverage now available. People will not be willing to work with you until there's a trigger event in their life, and the first place they're going to go for information is the internet. Okay. They're not going to call you. They're not going to open up the yellow pages. They're going to go to the internet. Now, they may go to the internet and put in health insurance agent near me. Well, we'll talk about that next week. Silas is going to talk a lot about referrals next week, but I'm going to talk about Google reviews, which is now becoming the virtual referral. The key to leveraging the internet is get a domain name and use that domain name on all forms of advertising. Guys, I have localinsuranceoptions.com, slchealthquotes.com, slcmedicarequotes.com, slcschedule.com. Guys, I'm a big domain name guy that I can put on all my marketing and shoot people to the specific websites I want to go to. Okay. I use GoDaddy. I think that my domain names cost me like $20 a year. It's not a big investment, but man, you see, I can't use www.healthmarkets.com/Steven.Cavajola. That doesn't even fit on a business card. Okay. I need a domain name, so I would recommend doing that. And the reason you want to start marketing your website is, number one, it makes you virtual. In other words, I can walk into a business on Tuesday, they can check me out at midnight on Thursday, and I don't need to be there. The second thing it does, it makes me real. They can go in, they can see my face. They can see that I'm local. And they might be they may go check me out on Google, and all of a sudden they see I've got 90-something 5-star reviews. It's all part of the plan. And then marketing becomes as simply as, what activities am I willing to do to get my website out to the people each week? Okay. So that's all I do. Is my marketing is just, how many people can I get my website to? Now, here's how I do it. I prospect small businesses. I'm going to talk about how you can do it in a little bit. But again, small business owners are the most proactive form of marketing, because there is no do not call list for small businesses. And if the door's open, you can walk in. Okay. Health insurance premiums are always a big deal to small business owners. Most of these businesses are not aware of HRAs that are available to them. One prospect could result in multiple sales, and small business owners understand the need for supplemental and life products. So again, ways that you can get your information to people, the old-fashioned way is direct mail. Again, I use the business white pages of a phone book for mailing lists to small business owners. Now, how do you get a phone book? Well, every year one's sitting at my mailbox in a little plastic bag. But you can actually go to yellowbook.com and order one. You can go to Chamber of Commerce. They probably have 1 million. They'll just give you one. But it's a great list to do direct mail. And then there's nice letters that you can get off the point, or marketing on demand. I almost call it point and click. That's an old thing. Send out these letters. If you got a business card, attach that to it. That's a pattern interrupt. I also do what are called paper box stuffs, where I stick marketing things into the paper boxes, not the mail boxes. This is how I market in subdivisions and rural areas. Now, this activity allows me to get my information to a large quantity of people in a short amount of time, but there's no effective way to follow up. So it's just, again, some people take the path of least resistance. I'm just going to do paper box stuff. Well, you're going to stunt your growth a little bit if that's all you're doing, okay? Now, there's technology that we can use to market our business. We can leave voicemails when we're working internet leads, calling business cards, calling businesses after hours, emails when I do walk and drop follow-ups, working internet leads, when I mass email to customers. Again, one of the biggest things that I just did was I sent out a huge email to my customers, not prospects, advertising the Mutual of Omaha's Children's Whole Life Children's Plan. And I just attached the brochure to it because the prices are right in there. And I said, hey, if you want to talk more, you want to do this, give me a call. Okay. And then texting, I'm working internet leads, I'm doing walk and drop follow-ups, I'm marketing the business cards, I'm always texting. Now, is marketing important to me? This little box back here used to be filled with Medicare brochures. I don't do that stuff anymore because of Connexure. So it's all filled with marketing stuff, okay? I just use point and click marketing on demand. And I have this stuff up, the top is my Medicare. This is my small business. And then I've got some other stuff down here. And then one of the things I do is I have a little container that I fill up every week that I can do my walk-in drops, my paper box stuff. I always have the stuff with me because I gotta be prepared. If I'm in between appointments, someone stands me up, the appointment's only 10 minutes, I always gotta have a plan B, which leads me to my marketing plan of action. My goal is to schedule as many appointments as I can, but if I don't fill an appointment slot on my schedule, then I need to have a backup plan. You see, with the PTS, we get 25 points for an appointment. So if I don't have an appointment at 11 o'clock on Tuesday, I have to do plan B. I have to choose to do something else that's going to get me at least 25 points. Now, I can do more, but the bottom line is if I don't have an appointment, my only other option is to either dial the phone or market my business. Aren't those the three things Silas mentioned? Appointment, dial the phone, market. And if I will just get 25 points an hour for 4 to 8 hours each week, that'll get me my 500 to 1,000 points on the PTS. Guys, I never look at, oh, I got to get 750. That's a big number. If I just look at doing 25 points for 6 out of the 8 hours I'm going to work today, I just got my 150 points. And if I do that times 5 days, there's my 700. I've broken this down into simple. 25 points an hour is how I run my business. Okay. And again, I'm not going to be able to do it a full 8 hours. There's going to be some travel. I need to eat every once in a while. There's going to be things that come up. But if I can consistently do 25 points, at least 4 to 6 hours is a more accurate way to do it. I'm going to hit my 500 to 700 to 1,000 points. Okay. Now I'm going to end up with the principle of sowing and reaping before we move on to prospecting, because again, just very quickly, sowing and reaping in marketing is very simple. We reap only what has been sown. In other words, if you're not marketing, you're not going to get anybody to call you. Okay. You got to plant a seed to get a harvest. So if you're not out there marketing people, don't expect your phone to ring. Number 2, we reap the same in kind as we sow. In other words, if I want to focus totally on Medicare, then I need to use Medicare marketing stuff. Okay. I like to market the whole 5 lines of business we do. So I use marketing pieces that talk health, life, Medicare, income protection, long-term care, that kind of stuff. We reap in a different season than we sow. It takes consistent effort over time. Again, guys, a farmer doesn't plant a seed in the spring, wait a week and say, well, that didn't work. When's the harvest? It's down the road. And we always have preached, it takes 60 to 90 days of consistent effort to get the spigot going. And then if you just learn to maintain it, that is how you will start to get a consistent flow of things going. But it's that inertia. You've got to get that ball rolling for it to work. We reap more than we sow. Your results are all bigger than your investment. Guys, you can buy 1,000 postcards for $100, give or take. And if you make one sale out of that 1,000, you've made way more than you've invested. You've got to spend a little bit of money to get this going. And again, there's all kinds of things on marketing on demand for any budget that we're dealing with. We reap in proportion to what we sow. If you want more, do more. Again, you're going to get a response of 1 to 3%. So let's just say 2%. Well, are you going to get a better response on 2% of 100 or 2% of 10,000? Okay, that's what Silas calls massive action. The reason most of you don't have what you want yet, you're not doing enough to get there. It's just plain and simple. You got to do more than you're currently doing. Okay, it's a hard truth to swallow, but that's what it is. And then we reap the full harvest of the good only if we persevere. We must never give up. That's why following a process is so important. You follow a process that, again, we know works. We know that if you walk into businesses, you're going to get responses. We know if you do paper box stuff, you'll eventually get a response. We know if you send out emails, you'll get a response. But it's the process and just trusting the process that's the key. Too many people start and stop everything. They just don't trust the process, okay? And then finally, you can't do anything about last year's harvest, but we can start this year. Start now. Guys, we're first week of February. If you haven't been a good marketer, start now. Start planting the seeds now. Make a decision that marketing your business out in the field is going to become something that you're going to strive to do, okay? You want to... Before I move on to prospecting, Silas, you got anything to add? Is there any questions?
I don't hear any questions from Sandra.
But there are some questions. Sorry about that. Steve, after you close the file on the CRM, does Health Markets automatically email those leads? And do they show up on your history summary tab?
Yes, they do. Every 90 days, they get an email from the CRM. They do show up in your history.
And then what percentage of your existing clients self-enroll in Medicare Advantage and health insurance when they, get your link?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Not very many, but there are some. But again, keep in mind, I didn't talk to these people. So I'm just saying, by using those links, if you can get a deal, or even if you get 1 or 2 a year, you didn't talk to them. It didn't cost you any time. All it did is you shot an email out. But if you think you're going to start building your business with those links, if I gave you that impression, no, you've got to do it. But it's an avenue we didn't have 5 years ago.
And I think it's showing a level of professionalism and just another resource in your quiver. And I think, you're just demonstrating to clients that you'll meet them how they want to be met and that you have a lot of resources. I think those direct-to-consumer websites are really great, especially when somebody's just shopping or just looking for a quote. Instead of taking time with them, say, I have a self-shopping link. Why don't I just send that to you and you can do all the shopping you want? Usually people are not comfortable executing a transaction like that, until, but they use it to maybe do a little bit of due diligence, and then they come back to you to actually execute the sale. So,
and just a reminder that if you don't have a domain name, it does need to be approved by compliance first.
Right. And you can't have like Medicare or things like that in your domain name. There's certain
things. So I think right now the best thing would be like if I was starting it now, it would be slcinsurance.com or SLC. I just use your initials and then insurance or agency. Don't even try to get creative. Okay. Just that'll go through compliance every time. Okay. Now, last thing we're going to talk about is engaging the prospect. These are no pressure approaches to engage with potential clients. A lot of people don't like engaging with consumers because of the fear of the rejection and stuff. So these are some ways that you can do it that's going to reduce the rejection. Okay. So the first one is no pressure prospecting to people you know, especially if you're a new person. I think the best way that you can do that is, I'm starting a new career in insurance and I need to work on my presentation. Can I practice on you? Okay. For those of you who went through training, you'll understand that's how I made my very first sale with a guy I went to church with. Okay. The other thing that's big is I think you should send out the center of influence letters asking for referrals. I think those are the two best ways in which you can engage with people you know, so they're still going to invite you to the Christmas party, because you're not talking about life insurance every time you walk in the door. Okay. Now, no pressure prospecting small business owners. I'm going to share with you something that's new. And it's new because I found something that we used to use years ago, and I ran it by Gerald Sandlin at Marketing on Demand, and he got it approved. And it's actually what's called the business survey. Okay, so it's new on Marketing. I'm going to show you what it looks like in a second. But this approach is just walking into a business saying, hey, my name is Steve Cavajola with Health Markets. We help small business owners with their healthcare benefits, and we're conducting our annual small business survey. Would you mind taking a couple minutes to fill out a short questionnaire? If they say no, hey, I understand. Now it's a walk and drop. Here's some information. If we can ever help you, let me know. But if they say yes, you're going to start gathering some information. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, just do a walk and drop, just walk in, hey, I'm just dropping off some information. So the business survey is prospecting, the walk and drop is marketing. Do you see the difference? Okay. And then while I'm out in the field, I'm going to try and collect business cards anywhere I can, at the walk and drop, community boards, wherever. So here's what the health market survey looks like. Now, this is an old one. Here's the brand new one. So it's got all the compliance font and all that. You can buy these on Marketing on Demand. They're not that expensive, but you can walk in and it basically is just check boxes. So again, when I say, hey, we're doing our annual small business survey, will you just take a few minutes and fill this out? They're going to see it's going to take them like 2 minutes. Okay. But you start gathering a bunch of information that you can use in the future. It's basically a small business fact finder. So you go through, challenges faced. Do these things bother you? Compliance for health insurance regulation, IRS regulation. A lot of them aren't even going to know what these things are. How do you buy your insurance? Online? Do you have an agent? What type of insurance do you currently have? Then this one, it's a bunch of, hey, is dental important to you? Prescription, health. But the most important question is at the very bottom. Are you interested in a free, no obligation health insurance evaluation from a licensed health markets agent? Yes, no, or not right now. So if they say no, here's some information. If that ever changes, let me know. But if they say yes or not right now, on the back, you have a lead card. And so you can gather their information. And if they say, yes, I want to talk to someone, schedule the appointment. When can I come back? If they say not right now, when could I? Well, our renewal is in November. So now you put a note on there. Now you have someone to call in November. Guys, this is a no pressure approach to business owners where you're going to gather a lot of information and they're going to tell you if they want to meet without you ever asking the question. I just think if people would start doing 10 to 20 of these every single day, you're going to start finding people to talk to. So Silas, have you seen this or do you have any comments on it?
I do. I'm going to share my screen really quickly.
Okay. Should I stop sharing mine for a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can just replace yours. Yep. So if you guys go on Marketing on Demand and you just search, you guys see my screen okay now? I just searched for small business. Right here is what Cav's talking about. Health Markets branded, small business walk and talk. You can get a pack of 10 of them. They're about $1.20 a piece. You may be able to replicate these or download them and have, even just printed on a piece of paper. These are a little higher quality, I think, and a little bit, but yeah, there's information here and you can see how it actually works. If I open this up, you can see that a lot of the questions that Cav asked, and then on the back is information that they can fill out for you. But I would also say, if you come in here and click on the small business, there's a lot of other things that are on here that can be used and leveraged in your marketing as well. Letters to small businesses.
That's the direct mail I use, that letter.
That letter right there.
Yep.
Yep, very simple.
Mhm.
But it outlines all the different things that we can do for clients. Health or the postcards. There's a couple of different postcards that I like here. Is your business drowning in health insurance costs? Man, we resurrected that one from the archives, didn't we?
I pull out a whole file and sent them to Jared, said, hey, this is what we used to do. Can you replicate it? And boom, they all got approved.
Lifesaver on it. That's great. Choosing employee healthcare benefits is hard. We make it easy. Looking for a better way to shop. And then there's also
They even
some
have
really
a
nice.
small business trifold.
Yep, the small business trifold down here is really sweet as well. Take control of your benefits. I can help. So these are all pieces that can be used in your walk and talk process. And when we talk about the walk and talk process, we're going to spend some more time on this downstream a little bit. But that walk and talk process, it's simply walking into Small Business America and either using a business survey or a drop-off piece, getting a business card, getting them entered into your CRM, scheduling a follow-up phone call the next week, sending an email follow-up, and then sending a direct mail letter with their business card attached to the front of it because you've picked up that business card. I promise you guys, if you just commit to doing this, Cav said 10 or 20 times a day. Honestly, if you did this 20 or 30 times a week and did it consistently over time, you're going to start engaging with people who need your help. The other thing I want to go back to that Cav talked about is there is no single magic bullet when it comes to marketing. But what works is layering. And when I say layering, I'm talking about a client seeing you here, hearing about you here, and noticing the Health Markets logo here. There's no magic bullet, but you've got to get your information out in a variety of different ways. And I think it's easy for many of us because we do work in small rural America. I think about Kevin McIntyre. He owns the town of Auburn. Somebody actually saw him in a restaurant not too long ago. I had lunch with him last week. And he said one of the waitresses came up and she just looked at him a couple of times. She goes, and he lives in Auburn, Indiana, which is a tiny little town. She goes, I don't know you, but I think you're Auburn famous. And she's just seen his mugshot everywhere in Auburn, which whatever your small town is, why not become famous in your small town for what you do and what you can help clients with? So there's so many great resources out there. I would say the performance tracker spreadsheet is a wonderful way to begin to build out this plan and then execute the plan. Cliff Karthauser, our business coach, he actually sent me he sends me, since I'm in a coaching program with him, he actually sends me quotes on a daily basis. And this just kind of resonated with me. He sent me this morning. He said, my quote today is this: the secret is that there is no secret. Consistency over intensity, progress over perfection, fundamentals over fads, over and over again. And I think that really just summarizes the message that Steve has delivered today. Consistency over intensity. You don't have to do this thousands or even hundreds of times a week. If you can start getting to the point where you're engaging with people dozens of times a week and start small and begin to build from there, I think you're going to see some great results from it. So Cav, really well delivered today. I mean, the message was spot on. I think this is the time of year when we got to get back to this. So I'd encourage all of you, and I would challenge all of you this week, if you don't have a marketing plan, if you don't have a specific number of walk and talks or walk and drops that you're going to do each week, if you don't have a plan around how many leads you're going to bring into your system each week, between internet leads and company leads that can be delivered into your system, and then your marketing plan, that's what you need to work on over the next 7 days, my opinion. Any final thoughts, Gav?
I do got a couple more slides just on the prospecting on the phone. Can I show them real quick? Do we have time?
Go for it.
All right. All right. So when you're developing a phone script, Sandler says there's 5 things that need to be in there. It needs to be a pattern interrupt, a mini upfront contract, a 30-second commercial, pain, and a negative reverse. And so if you want to call businesses because some people just, they don't want to do walk and drops. It's 20 below zero, so they want to call businesses. So again, something that I worked with Eric Meyer on, who's the Sandler guy. Basically, this is the approach we came up with. So, hi, my name is Steve, and this is a sales call. Guys, most salespeople aren't saying that, so that's the pattern interrupt. Now, the mini upfront contract is, do you want to hang up or can I have a half a minute to tell you why I'm calling? And guys, most people will start laughing at this point, okay? Because they've not been approached this way, okay? Now, if they say, yeah, go ahead. I'm with one of the largest independent insurance agencies in the country, and we work with small business owners who are frustrated with their current healthcare situation and would like some cost-effective alternatives. Now, I don't know your situation at all. Is this even relevant to you? It's a qualifying statement. Because if it's not relevant to them, and they say, no, it's not relevant, okay, appreciate your honesty. Sorry to bother you. But if they say, well, yeah, well, then how so? Let them start talking to pain. I have employees, I can't provide anything for them, or our health insurance keeps going up. And then you close for the appointment by doing a negative reverse. Now, I don't know if we can help you or not, but I'd be willing to spend some time with you to see if we can. When would be a good time for us to get together to review your situation? So that is if you want to prospect. Now, if you want to market, you can make calls after hours and leave this message. It's basically the same thing. We work with small business owners who are frustrated with their current healthcare situation. I don't know if this is relevant to you, but if it is and you'd like to see if we can help, contact me through my website. And if you don't want to talk to people because you're calling after hours, if someone answers the phone, I'm sorry, I must have the wrong number, hang up and move on to the next person, because you're not engaging people here. You're marketing. You're leaving as many messages in a short amount of time. If you want to call during business hours, you're prospecting. You're trying to engage with people. You can also email small business owners. Again, Silas talked about grab business cards, get them in the CRM, and then pop this email out. It's basically the same thing. And then you've got the direct mail where you can just, again, attach the business cards to a letter, send it out. You can send out letters to individual, into things, but those are that rapid engagement where these people are seeing you multiple times to reach out to you. So that's it. Silas, land the plane.
Sorry, I coughed in everybody's face there. I thought I was on mute. A little chest cold I'm working through. So, Cav, again, thanks for doing this today. Hopefully you guys all pulled something from this. I just think the biggest takeaway is you got to have a process. Got to have a process on how you work leads and be consistent with it. Got to have a process on how you market your business and be consistent with it. And I would go back. I would really go back and say process is really the most important thing here. So I saw Duke had a question. Sorry, what was the question around who is our contact at HM to call in regards to helping a company get a plan for their employees?
Sandra.
I would say your sales leader, Duke. Derek can help you with that.
Give it to Sandra. She'll do a better job.
Well, I would say,
Steve, you're fired. Your ADHD is kicking in. Steve, you're fired.
you got to, when you're dealing with small companies, you got to walk them through the process of what is it they're looking for, right? Small group insurance is one animal, but many small companies, especially with less than 50 employees, are better off offering individual health insurance coverages to their employees because of the government subsidies that they are probably eligible for. And we can leverage things like individual coverage, health reimbursement arrangements and things. But I would say, I would start with Derek or your sales leader for everybody else on the call. If you have a client that's looking to go with group, an initial conversation, I think needs to be had to determine which direction you're going to go. I will say we only have a couple of agents on our team that even do group insurance. Derek is one of them. I think all of the sales leaders do, but not because we necessarily want to. It's just because we need to have that outlet for agents who don't do group. I don't think any one of you should think about getting into group insurance unless you're in a position that you're going to start doing one group a month, 10 or 12 a year, because it's just like anything. If you're not doing it consistently, there's a lot of room for error and there's a lot of room for, issues to crop up. So, but I would say, Duke, for you, go to Derek first and kind of see where it goes and develops from there. He may be able to help you actually set it up so that you can go in and write a bunch of individual policies, which might be a better solution for the client too. So, all right, friends, I hope you join us next week. We're going to talk next week about building a referral practice. I'll be running point on that. And I think ultimately that is where we're all trying to get to. You want to get to a point where you have clients lining up and waiting to see you because they were referred by somebody who thought you were awesome. And those types of situations are just uniquely different. You're not chasing people. People are coming in with a different perspective of who you are and what you bring to the table, a different level of respect, and they're oftentimes willing to wait in line a week or 2 or 3 to get into your schedule. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, and that is something that can happen pretty quickly. It's not something that you have to, wait years to have. So that will be the focus of our discussion next week. Appreciate y'all being here. I hope you have a great week. Please reach out to your leadership if you need anything at all. Take care. Bye-bye.